When Michael Calling planned to build his dream home in a flood-prone area, he thought he'd bought clean landfill for a flood mound. But now he's been told it's contaminated with asbestos and he's facing $1 million clean-up bill.
This overgrown patch of greenery should have been covered up by Michael Calling's dream home.
That was going to be the front corner of the house.
Yeah. He hasn't gone looking for four-leaf clovers, but maybe he should. Luck certainly hasn't been on his side.
If the EPA shows up on a site and says there's contamination, then everything stops.
None of this makes any sense, and it's a grave injustice to this family.
Michael's property is in Millers Forest in the New South Wales Hunter Valley, a flood-prone area where most new homes need to be built on a flood mound.
The council, when they give you an approval for a house, they give you a height that your floor level has to be at, and that keeps you out of the 1 in 100 year levels.
Last October, Michael had nearly 2,000 tonnes delivered to his property. But a month later, the EPA, the Environment Protection Authority, came knocking.
They said they had information that there was asbestos contamination in the fill. I was in disbelief. I was devastated.
Michael claims the EPA told him the reason why it knew his flood mound was likely to have asbestos was because it had already tested that same fill before it left Aussie Skip's recycling facility in Sydney.
The EPA had collected asbestos fragments from the material in Sydney and sent the fragments away for testing for 2 weeks.
So if there's a question mark over the material to begin with, why was it allowed to be brought to your place?
I thought that was just wrong. I figured if the EPA is testing your material for contamination, you're not allowed to move it while those tests are being done. There's nothing to stop someone from shipping out material while the EPA is testing it.
So this has become your fault?
It's become my responsibility, even though I'm not at fault.
We put these claims to Aussie Skip's Recycling, who deny the chain of events. They say no asbestos-containing materials were transported to Michael's property from them. Their material was mixed in with material that was already on Michael's property, and Michael's property has been a well-known dumping ground for asbestos waste for many years.
16 weeks.
Michael says while there was already landfill there, it wasn't contaminated, and he feels like Aussie Skips is just trying to muddy the waters and shift the blame onto him. But the EPA says there's insufficient evidence to determine the original source, and the clean-up order is Michael's responsibility. And it won't be cheap.
Roughly $500 a tonne. That's before you even dig it up and put it in a truck.
$500 a tonne times 2,000 is $1 million. And that's just the start of it.
They sent me this clean-up notice, and it said that if I don't comply, they'll fine me $250,000 a day. I'm not Rupert Murdoch. I don't know who makes $250,000 a day.
How then can the EPA turn around and issue a $1 million clean-up notice on a family who has, through no fault of their own, received fill that has asbestos in it that the EPA tested itself when it was in Sydney?
Michael's battle has enraged the New South Wales Shadow Environment Minister, Kate Washington.
The EPA's job is to protect the environment and to protect people. And it's not doing its job if it's going to make the victims pay the price instead of the polluter.
Michael runs his pet boarding company on the land. It's a business that provides care for holidaymakers' animals, but with travel drastically reduced during coronavirus, he's had to lay off all his staff and limp along with very little income.
It's just on my mind all the time. It causes stress and anxiety. Not gonna lie, there's times that I sink to the floor and cry. This whole situation has just been completely back to front. It's like the opposite of sense and reality. There's nothing that we could have done to avoid this.
The EPA is investigating the matter and working on a cost-effective solution to manage the dirt fill on Michael's property. It also says there'll be no hesitation in taking action against Aussie Skips if a breach of environmental legislation is found.